Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Crash and Ride podcast. Thank you so much. All of you have contacted me and given me feedback, sent me messages of inspiration, experience, strength, and hope. It's been fantastic. Thank you to my Patreon pledges. I didn't expect that to happen so quickly. You know, I plan to give every one of these away for free in the hope that it helps somebody who's suffering with depression or anxiety now. But you guys are already stepping up and pledging at the $5 and $10 level as a way of showing your appreciation. And, man, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. That interview with Jake Kreger was fantastic, and he and I have talked about how much we enjoyed doing it. And, I hope you get to see him soon. Several people have told me that they're going to play with Multicult in the near future, and they're super stoked about it. If you're a drummer, all I have to say is buckle up, man. He's amazing. I'm in Austin at South by Southwest right now. I'm in a hotel room downtown. Been here for a couple of days, played a whole bunch of shows. I was fortunate enough to play with this amazing trip-hop group from India called Komorebi. That's Komorebi. The young woman, Tarana, who does that is a trip-hop engineer and producer, amazing vocalist, amazing arranger. This kind of came out of the blue. Her drummer couldn't get a visa, so at the last minute, I got the call. Can you play these shows? I got the songs on SoundCloud. I wrote some charts. It was pretty exciting. Not something I've done a lot of, but, man, I love playing that trip-hop stuff. It's a lot of fun. I hope to work with her again. She is playing at Tree Fort in Boise next week on the 20th. I may or may not be able to do that with her. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that I can take the time to fly out there and do that gig. But even if I don't, man, see Komorebi. Look them up on Spotify, Komorebi, and check it out. Immerse yourself in it. If you're a fan of Portishead or sometimes her vocal phrasing reminds me of Bjork, it's good stuff. It's really outstanding, and it was a real honor to play with her. I also did some shows with Pinky Doodle Poodle, who continue to just rock my world, a great rock and roll band from Japan. We've got one more show. It's tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the New Granada Showcase, and I've also got 2 shows tomorrow with 5/8. Hopefully you'll hear this in time to come see 5/8 at the Athens in Austin show, which is at the Sidebar. We're playing at 5:30, and then we are also playing that New Granada Showcase later. You know, Pinky Doodle Poodle's playing at 2 p.m., and 5/8 is playing at, hold on, I'm looking it up on my phone here. New Granada is a promoter out of Tampa, Florida. Our friend Keith, he is absolutely outstanding. He's taken such good care of us through the years. We've done a ton of shows in Tampa, and he's just been great. And it'll just take me a second here. Here we go. Let's see. The New Granada Showcase is at Schultz Garden. And like I said, 2 p.m., Pinky Doodle Poodle. I rush across town to play 5:30 at the Sidebar, and then back to Schultz Garden at 9:30 with 5/8. And finally, I'm playing Sunday the 17th at the Chili Dog Fest at the Sidebar, 12:30 p.m. Man, it's been great to see some of you guys here at South by Southwest. I hope we get to cross paths in the future. If you ever see me out, please come shake my hand. Let's talk it out. This week on the program, we have the amazing Tierney Tough. She is the bass player, keyboard player, composer from the band The Pauses. They are a wonderful band with a little trip-hop influence from Orlando, Florida. They've got 2 records out that are both outstanding, both produced by Jay Robbins of Jawbox. I highly recommend you seek those out. Tierney was an incredible interview subject and just rocked my world. Besides the shows I've played this week, I've seen some amazing music. I discovered this fantastic band from Los Angeles called French Vanilla, sax, bass, incredibly compelling vocalist, and a great drummer. They played on the sidewalk in front of a bar I was floating into, and I was like, hold on, I got to go see this band. They're on Instagram, they're French Vanilla, and they're an LA band. Just go find them. They're great. Lee Baines continues to be one of my favorite rock performers of all time. He has crushed several sets that I've seen here at South by Southwest. Man, I wish you were here. It's been great. So I guess that's all I have. I guess we'll jump into it. Here's my interview with Tierney Tough. right. We're here with Tierney Tough. I know her as the singer, bass player, primary composer of the amazing Orlando band, The Pauses, but there's so much more that you do.
Well, thank you. I do other things, yeah. I do some promoting, some hired gunness, I guess, some mediocre jokes to myself.
I love all your jokes. So you were with,
stuff.
We ran into each other in New York City, and you were hired gun for...
Was it... I played it a couple... Maybe it was Matt Pond?
Yes.
PA?
Matt Pond, PA.
Yeah, so it was a while ago.
I blanked for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a lot of that kind of thing?
I have. I really actually enjoy that. As a front person of a band, it's nice to take a step back and not be in charge of things and just enjoy playing, potentially a different style of music. Whether it's a punk band or, like a quiet indie folk band. I just love to have the opportunity to expand.
Yeah. How did that Matt Pond PA gig come about? Did you guys know each other?
Pauses opened for them in Tampa, and we had kept in touch, and he ended up moving to Florida. He just, I guess he was in search of a band and remembered that I played bass and sang and reached out to me and asked me to help build a band for him. So
you were MD for that gig?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I got the drummer and the bass player and, got everybody together.
I love hired gun work.
It's so fun.
Yeah. I mean, this week, I got to do that thing with that trip hop band from India, Kamarabi. I got the recordings 4 days before the gig, learned them all, made charts, and played and had a blast and got paid and
you were fantastic too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I was nervous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure.
But that's the best part too, is it puts you on your toes.
Right.
It makes you a better player.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And what is there any other side hired gun work you're doing?
I did last year. I did a tour with this band Beach Slang. It's like a punk kind of replacements.
That sounds amazing.
It was super fun, and that's something I would never get to do in my own band.
Right.
We're not a punk band. We have some elements of that, but we're not just like a straight
The Pauses are a complete package.
We're kind of all over the place.
Now, let's talk about the Pauses a little bit before we jump into this other stuff.
Yeah.
You guys have some big touring coming up soon.
We have some cool gigs coming up that I'm pretty excited about. We're here at South by for the whole week. We're playing like 7 million shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
dog shows.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously, we
Yeah, how many dog shows is one showcase show? Because they're so damn hard.
I know. I mean, today we had a day off, which was actually really nice.
Day off with the Lockhart. Ate barbecue.
I ate barbecue today too.
What do you know?
We're in Texas, so
right, you have to.
Seems like pretty likely.
Right.
So it's like almost 2 shows a day, and it's super fun, but it's also exhausting.
Also, sometimes absolutely reprehensible equipment.
Yes.
And we nearly came to blows with the sound man last night.
I heard about that.
Yeah, this
and
isn't about us.
You had the same sound person as us, who also seemed like he did not want to be there, which sounds like what happened to you.
Dude should have stayed home.
Right.
Should have stayed home.
I'm pretty sure I saw him plug his ears. So that's a good sign.
Useless.
Yeah.
Useless engineer.
That's kind of what you step into coming here, I think.
It's weird, though. I mean, what's the point, right?
Exactly. No, if you...
come all the way across the country to play a gig. You want to do your best, and you show up, and the drum kit looks like it was stolen from a circus.
Mm-hmm. A Mapex circus.
Man, there are some great Mapex drums.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them at South by
Not
Southwest,
here.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oof.
yeah.
But it exactly. I mean, it's about the presentation, and if you can't present, then what is the point?
I know, it's very strange.
It is strange.
But that said, you guys were great when I saw you.
Well, thank you.
At the Hole in the Wall.
And I trust your opinion because you've seen us probably more than most people have.
Yeah, the only thing I missed in that room was the thunderous low end of those sample
Us
patches.
Too.
Yeah.
That that is really a make or break situation for us because we are so electronic heavy that if the venue can't, support that, then our show kind of struggles. And we can struggle too because we're like not feeling it because that's such a huge
it moves
thing.
A lot of air. It's a big surge of adrenaline when that happens.
Yeah, and we have yet to feel great about a show that we've had this week.
I'm sure you guys have been great. The Kamarebi girls were like, I want to be her friend. She's so wonderful.
I want to be her friend, too.
Oh, man. We're going to make this happen. I think that I talked to someone who runs a very cool festival on this side of the Rockies, and we may be able to get them here next year for that.
That'd be great.
I don't want to start talking out of turn about it. But
well, I think there should be we talked about there should be a trip hop revival.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah,
it needs to come.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but there's more positive shows coming up in the year to come.
Yeah. In June we are doing a little tour up to play with this band. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're called Jawbox.
Yeah, I recall something about a band. That
You've
drummer
heard
is
of
a
them.
beast. Zach.
It's okay.
Yeah. What? Zach Baroka, is that his name?
Yeah.
God, he's so good.
They were all so wonderful, lovely, and extremely talented people. And we feel like incredibly lucky to know them and have worked with them and to also now play with them.
I cut my hair off because of Jay Robbins.
Really?
I had the longest, prettiest Brett girl hair, man. I was a hippie dude, and like had waist-length hair. Saw Jawbox at the 40 Watt and went and got a crew cut the next day.
That's amazing.
I told Jay that story.
Yeah?
He said, yeah, I missed that hair. He's really great.
He's so great.
So when are those shows again?
So that's in June.
Man.
Yeah.
I'll be there. I'll find a way.
You should definitely come.
And everybody within the sound of our voices should see those shows.
Yeah.
Jawbox and Pauses on the same bill.
At the 930 Club.
Be prepared to have all the feelings.
We really are just kind of in shock that that's a thing. It seems like to me like the 930 Club that's a hometown show.
Mm-hmm.
Someone of like Fugazi caliber should be opening in my mind.
I don't know. I mean, I think you guys are brilliant, and clearly Jay does because he's produced all of your albums, right?
Yes, both albums. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I meant both.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a crazy like Kim Coletta just emailed me and was like, "Hey, Tierney, we just have this like one show in DC. If you guys, I know it's a far drive, but if you guys want to come up and play with us, we'd love to have you." And
you were like, "I've already left the house. I'm on my way."
I called Jason. I was just kind of like lightly screaming into the phone,
Brilliant.
and then we confirmed like immediately because yes.
So if you're wondering, if you're not familiar with the Pauses music, like what is the band like that gets asked to play in the opening slot for Jawbox's reunion show? You should get the records. They're brilliant.
Thank you.
I mean, it's that good.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we also have some new dates that we confirmed with Bill to Spill in October for their Keep It Like a Secret tour.
Oh my gosh.
We're pretty excited.
You're hitting all the great 90s bands.
It seems that way. Or they're hitting us somehow.
Yeah, that's Built to Spill. I mean, I guess they never stopped. I don't know if I call them a 90s band or not.
I guess they didn't stop, no.
They're really brilliant, too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
let's jump into right now.
Let's jump into the pain. Well, first we should say there are two Pauses full-length albums, and they are Unbuilding, which came out this year.
Last year.
Mm-hmm. And
feels like this year is still 2018.
It's still got some legs, I think, and I haven't stopped listening to it.
Thank you.
At least a couple of times a week, and it's brilliant. And then the first record, Things. Tell me the title again.
Cautionary Tale.
Cautionary Tale with all the amazing artwork. Who did the artwork again?
First record was a guy named Travis Lampy out of Chicago, who we asked him to do this Golden Book style cover, and he sent back like 6 different covers that were all equally amazing.
He nailed it. It's great.
It's so good. So we were like, oh, how are we going to top that? You know, and like, we found this guy, Dan Black, from Landland to do on building cover.
Mm-hmm.
And he just blew it out of the park. It was just this beautiful illustration of this city, and like, you know, all the themes that we'd wanted and asked for, with the mid-century modern kind of feel to it, and just kind of like a deteriorating scene. He nailed. So it's just amazing to be able to work with these people.
Right.
So
clearly, we're not talking about punk band stuff.
No.
I mean, I have tons of respect for the ideas and emotional energy and accomplishments of what we sort of think of as punk, especially when punk was fun before it turned into hardcore and became an enormous homophobic jock party. But there's something more going on here as far as the Pauses kind of aesthetic, top to bottom thing.
Yeah. I think so. And I think we were influenced by a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
and then we
clearly.
kind of are, you know, a little bit maybe ambitious with ideas.
I think you wear it well.
Thank you.
So you're from Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Pauses are based out of Orlando. Did you grow up in Orlando?
I did. Yeah. I'm a rare native Orlandoan.
Is your family from? Are they just lifelong Floridians, or did?
My mom is actually Panamanian, and
I didn't know that.
yeah,
What's
dad,
her maiden name?
Bissell. Her dad was stationed there.
Okay.
From Mississippi, so she grew up there. Moved when she was maybe early 20s, and then met my dad my dad's from Miami, Hialeah area.
Okay.
And they met in South Carolina, and then decided to move to Florida and have us, me and my sister.
What were they doing in South Carolina?
My dad was just, working stationed there. She was working on cars. They both loved cars, and I think like they would just hang out and work on cars together. And my mom,
that's really cool.
He would hang around all the time, and my mom was just basically like, "Hey, you want to get married?"
So your dad was stationed there. He's military?
Yeah.
What branch?
I don't know. I have to ask. This
Really?
is bad. I should know.
Man, my dad is retired Air Force.
Yeah.
I was very aware of that from a very young age.
Oh.
Jets, planes, stories of self-sacrifice and heroism 30,000 feet off the ground, and I grew up with all of that.
That's cool. I should probably know more things about that.
Do you know what city in South Carolina?
Charleston.
Probably Navy then.
Navy.
I would guess.
Yeah.
Because that's a port city.
Yeah. I don't know.
But you were born
bad.
in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And
my sister was born there too.
So you have just one sibling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's about 6 years younger than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I got to name her.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I was kind of obsessed with this.
So her name is Soup Bowl.
Yeah. I was obsessed with this 80s cartoon called Jim and the Holograms.
I know Jim and the Holograms, of course.
So, and I'm pretty sure that show made me want to play music.
Mm-hmm.
It was watching it now, it's like a bizarre plot line.
Or
it's
no
like,
plot.
Yeah, there's no plot. Her dad died, became a computer, tells her what to do. She's the secretary during the day, rock star at night, has this alter ego, which is Jim.
Right.
And has a rival band, the Misfits.
Right.
But it was so just like amazing and surreal.
Representation matters.
Yeah.
It
and
does.
she was all in pink, and I'm like, yeah, I want that.
Oh, wait. I'm going to... so we're going to interrupt the child. You have a pink microphone.
I do now.
Is this part of the gym thing? Did this sort of carry forward?
I think not consciously it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're painting your bass shell pink.
Yeah.
Even though it's going to break my heart because I love that Fiesta red so much.
It's a good color. It's a time for a new color.
There was a guy playing a shell pink Johnny Marr Jaguar Jazzmaster. I don't know which. Being a drummer, I'm sort of like, oh yeah, the not the Strat.
I'm bad with this stuff too. I couldn't tell you that much about gear.
Man, he pulled that shell pink guitar out of the case, and I was like, I want to lick it. Like it looked so good.
As long as you didn't lick it.
I didn't.
Just wanting to.
I told him that I had it was making me feel things. I'm not normally a Pink instrument guy, but that guitar looked badass, and I'm sure it's Mustang. No, it's
Yep,
it's Mustang bass. It's going to look absolutely brilliant Pink too.
Yeah, I guess that does stem from that show, but yeah. So I asked my parents for a sibling, and they gave me one. And then I got to name her after my favorite cartoon character's sister, Kimber.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that crazy?
I love that so much. My daughter wants a sister so bad. But
Yeah, I think our mom, and she's really a wonderful lady. She's super supportive, probably sometimes too supportive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I have to know like what you're doing and make sure it's good, and make sure you guys are good all the time. And it's like, no, we're fine.
She supports your art, though.
She's very supportive. I mean, she wears the band shirt.
Oh, that's
A
fantastic.
lot.
Yeah. Now, did your parents stay married?
Yeah, they're still married.
Oh, that's fantastic.
40-something years.
I mean, I think that's fantastic.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. And what was your school experience like? Were you a loner or?
I mean, I'm always going to be a loner. I am. I love private time.
Yeah. Would you call yourself an introvert?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. But
but you're such a compelling performer.
I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. Like, I feel more comfortable on stage than in person, like with just a friend or something.
I don't feel like, though, when I'm watching you perform that I'm watching a persona.
I don't think it's a persona. I mean, at some degree, everyone has a stage persona,
Sure.
right?
It's a safe place that you could be vulnerable in front of a lot of people.
Yes.
You're not going to like open your journal and start
It's not
reading.
an act,
Right.
know.
But you're not, fronting.
Not fronting. I'm just like, I feel more confident, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe that's me. Like, that's me. I don't know.
I think sometimes the art becomes a kind of shield. It's like the opposite of the cloak of invisibility in the Harry Potter books. It's like the cloak
I don't know anything about Harry Potter. I'm sorry, but I believe you.
I actually am not a huge fan, but I have an 8-year-old daughter.
Oh, okay.
So I've seen a lot of Harry Potter. There's the thing that's this cloak that you put on and you're invisible and you can sort of sneak around and not be seen.
That sounds great.
I think it's a sort of manifestation of a childhood fantasy a lot of kids have. I want to be able to eavesdrop.
Escape.
Right. Escape, but still be involved. Right.
Yeah.
But I think that performing is the opposite of that. It's the cloak of visibility.
Yeah.
Everyone can see me.
Right. Well,
and I have some control in this situation.
Right. And you're being vulnerable and exposing your true feelings, so you better be confident about that.
Right.
So I don't know that I feel like if I don't do that, I will go crazy.
Right.
Like, I have to do that. So.
Well, I mean, here we are. Like, I'm well into middle age, and at some point you're going to drift there yourself, I'm sure, and you're not going to stop performing. If you do, I'm going to drive down to Orlando and camp out in the front yard until I know there's at least one pauses show booked.
I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah, what else are you going to do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hang out. I mean, I actually, if I ever stopped playing music, I probably would just like move to a farm or something and live with animals. I think. That's what
I got to tell you, I tried that.
Yeah.
Did 2 years on a farm.
Really?
Well, a full year. I did 6 months on a farm. Moved to Chicago to court my now wife, then girlfriend. Dragged her back to the farm. We did a year there, and I will not say that we were not happy. We were very happy that year.
Yeah.
We farmed and walked in the woods.
You feel productive and kind of free.
Had dogs that wandered around and lived kind of.
I just want to live with all the dogs.
Right. Oh God. One day when the clock's not ticking on the rest of South by Southwest for you, we should sort of pick apart our shared love of all things canine, because I love my dogs. I love your dog. But we lived with the dogs, and we lived in the woods. We lived on a 1,000-acre tree farm, and I didn't play any music for like a year. Mm-hmm. And then one day, I was standing in Publix at 1 o'clock in the morning, because Publix down there is 24 hours, and was over in the produce section, and I'm embarrassed to even say what song came on the grocery store intercom, but let's just say it was a pop song from the early 2000s that was absolutely completely cleared by every censor at Publix to be played on the intercom at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm standing there in the fucking produce section, bawling my eyes out at the sense of loss of having lost my life as an artist. And I was like, I put so many years into bands and 5/8 especially, and other bands after 5/8 before I moved to Chicago to be with my wife, and I just put my drums in a closet and gave up. And I realized that I couldn't live like that anymore. So that's when we started planning to move back to Athens, and I resumed my life as a musician. I'm not saying it's going to be like that for anybody else, but that was my experience.
Yeah.
So
what was the song? Can't say.
Tierney. I mean, I can, but I'm gonna. A bunch of my punk rock friends are gonna pick up their whatever device they listen on and smash it when they hear me say this out of pure frustration with me being such a sap. But it was Clocks by Coldplay.
Oh, come on.
I know.
No, I mean, I love those first two records.
Really? It was
Yes.
that melody in that minor key piano line, and it just got me right in the heart, man. I was just like, what is wrong with me?
I listen to Parachutes every fall.
No kidding.
It's a beautiful record.
I should maybe give it another chance. It's just
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, you know, when I worked with the Easter Island guys, they were fans. And,
It's so sweet.
you know, I guess.
I mean, fuck those guys. Not Easter Island.
No, those are great, beautiful men. I love them so much.
I love a good pop melody, you know, I don't know. I just don't. People always ask, like, what's your guilty pleasure? And I'm like, I have
no guilt.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
I like what I like, you know?
Yeah. So introverted, maybe mildly depressed, or maybe deeply depressed, Tierney in middle school, right?
I think like that was the time I definitely started playing music throughout school, like educational wise, but not I didn't start really playing in bands until I was about that age, about 13 or so. I was like,
so wait, when did you start playing music, and what instrument did you start playing?
Well, I started, you know, like everyone does, like kindergarten, and then you just take music classes. Like,
yeah, I don't think
throughout.
everyone.
Nobody?
Oh man, my mom, the opera singer, was not.
Didn't have music classes?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
Public school, Georgia. Emotions are of the
really
devil.
Sad because that was such a special experience for me, playing the xylophone and recorder all day.
Yeah.
You know, it was like so much fun. I like, you know, remember those classes.
Yeah.
And just how much I loved doing that.
So you bonded with music instantly.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my dad, you know, he always had the oldie station on in the car, and I just loved all those songs.
But do you remember any particular songs that?
It's all mostly Beatles.
Yeah.
You know, they play the same 12 songs on
Yesterday,
the oldie station.
Michelle, My Belle.
Yeah.
Lady Madonna. Yeah.
Well, you know, I first discovered the Beatles at this place called Showbiz Pizza. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
didn't you do a social media thing about the band from Showbiz at one point?
I mean, I love them. I had a couple birthdays parties there.
Rock of Fire Explosion?
Rock of Fire Explosion.
Holy shit, I can't remember. I remember that.
There's a great documentary on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it on YouTube?
It might be. The creator lives in Orlando.
The creator of the Rock of Fire Explosion?
Yes. Yeah. His name's Aaron Fletcher, I think. But I was just like infatuated with them, and it's such a weird, like, you know, animatronics are so interesting. Just so I discovered.
I'm suddenly seeing sort of a theme of this kind of mechanical, emotional thing that kind of runs all the way through Unbuilding. Like there's, you know, some of those sequences that you guys use, and I mean, you'll pardon me because Jason often is the one who triggers them, but you may be the one composing them. There's, you know, like a dong 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 dong.
I mean, those things are most like pretty Jason heavy parts, like all the kind of quirky synthy stuff. That's like definitely him.
Right.
But I think he and I kind of have a similar sensibility as far as I mean, we definitely have we come from different songwriting sides, but similar, I guess the word would be kind of quirky or
right. There's a
Sensibility.
mechanical quality to some of those parts. Like,
Yeah.
are you a Kraftwerk fan?
I like Kraftwerk, but I can't say I know like the whole catalog.
I mean, you don't have to. There's two
But
or three records right in the middle of their best, and that's really all you need.
Okay.
Trans Europe Express and probably
Okay.
Computer Love.
Yeah. We Autorobots.
Oh man, my
Dun,
wife
dun, dun,
hates
dun.
it.
Really?
It's like this music I don't understand, and I'm like I don't, and this sort of comes back to the Rock-afire Explosion. There's something about this. Man, I wish this is one of those times when I wish I'd paid more attention in art classes, where machines are sort of emulating human emotion,
Yeah.
or humans are emulating machines, emulating human emotion. That is compelling because I think it becomes a values-free projection. Like you're just like every human being with a guitar, a keyboard, or set of drums brings to that instrument this emotional baggage of their entire life, and and sometimes that's not great. I mean, a lot of times it is great. Like, a lot of our favorite performers have really, really fucked up lives, and it's good, that we are sort of allowed this brief window into it because we can have this empathic moment with it. But also, like, with Kraftwerk, there's like this one moment that you can assume, if you sort of embrace the full aesthetic experience, that this robot, this German guy pretending to be a robot, just has this one purpose. It's this song. It's and so
Yeah.
that's what I think is cool about it, and my wife thinks it's incredibly boring. So you're connected strongly as a young child with the Rock-afire Explosion.
I mean, I guess you could say Jason and I connected deeply with visuals, and like television and like cartoons and like, kind of like surreal.
Well, you guys had that keyboard that allowed you to sort of choose your own adventure with this project. If you haven't seen this, it's going to be very difficult for me to sum it down in just a few words. But
it's hard to explain.
There was a Pauses tour where there was a keyboard instrument available to the audience that, rather than making sounds, projected different bits of animated film onto a screen behind the band, and you could trigger them by playing the keys. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so that's called Interactovision. It basically allows you to be a VJ.
Right.
It's a MIDI keyboard. It's funny. It's like when we first played South by Southwest, we came up with this idea to incorporate film, music, and interactive, which is the three elements of South by.
Right.
Into this keyboard, and that was our South by tour.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this MIDI keyboard, and Jason found all these really fun little, film clips that were each key was designated to, and then we would face the keyboard towards the audience, and then while we play, anybody could come up and just play whatever they wanted and control the visuals.
Right.
And then they could also affect those by turning the mod wheel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
To scrub back and forth.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, or
I missed an opportunity.
Yeah, we also have a sustain pedal that will affect and distort the film. So, you don't have to have any rhythm, but
Who built it?
Jason did.
He conceived it this.
He's a mad scientist.
No, I know. You can hear it, and I've spent some time with him, and he's a quirky guy.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. It's like having your own personal John Bryan. It's like, all right, well, I have this song idea. I don't know where to go with it, but I'm gonna send it to him, and then it kind of comes back as this like thing you never thought would happen, but it's like a masterpiece, that you never thought you could acquire. And it's such a, I feel really lucky to be able to play with him for so long too.
Yeah.
We're kind of, I think we're hitting our 15th year of playing together in bands. So.
Was it always the Pauses?
No, he and I used to be in a band called Vostok previous to this that I was the bass player in. We had a different singer. Right. And the band kind of fizzled out because the singer decided to move back to Richmond. So we kind of broke up. And then at the same time, my longtime boyfriend and I broke up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go buy a keyboard and just start writing songs and see what happens.
Right.
And
It's your Wisconsin cabin moment.
and I wrote a collection of songs and I sent it to Jason, and because I really enjoyed working with him, and
He's brilliant.
he is, and
Yeah.
it was just such a cool bonding chemistry that we had, and it was just something that I never thought could happen.
So
with my
let's
music.
talk your first band. So we've sort of skipped straight from middle school to your first band. What was your first band?
Ever?
EVER?
No. Like, what was my first band?
I thought that was the name of your first band.
What was my first band I ever played in?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that was my first serious band.
Right.
I played with people throughout high school, just like jamming, which I hate that word.
It's got a lot of bad connotations.
I know it, but it's kind of what I did. There was nothing serious until Vostok came.
Mm-hmm.
So
Spell that.
VOST.
Vostok.
No, Vostok, like the lake in Antarctica.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a very moody band.
Was this you were sort of this is sort of post explosion of Scandinavian emo rock thing?
It's kind of like a Saddle Creek inspired
Okay.
post rock band. So kind of like a lot of technical guitar. If you can imagine another very skilled guitarist playing with Jason, it was that,
Oh my
like
gosh.
two back and forth.
So
And then crazy heavy, walking bass lines and, intricate drums.
did you guys release anything?
We had one album.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is it still available?
It is. It's on Bandcamp or Spotify.
Oh man, Bandcamp is so good.
Yeah.
I'm such a huge fan.
I still like it. I listen to it and I really like it.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
So, are you working this out on your music at this point? Like, is this sort of...
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't love going to school, and like,
Yeah.
I just like, I had a music scholarship to go to like a community college,
Uh-huh.
and I went for a couple months, and all I had to do was play in the jazz band,
Right.
and it was a terrible jazz band. Like I would make up stuff
Bass?
on bass.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, you're so great." And I'm like, "Really? I'm just making up walking bass lines."
Right.
And I just I couldn't get through the academics. And I just didn't want to do it. And I wasn't, it's not that feeling like where you're forced to go to school right out of school.
Oh man.
And I just wasn't ready, and I didn't know what I wanted to do.
So many kids I know, people who were kids, of course, we were who came from dysfunctional homes, got thrown into opportunities that probably would have been great, but they just weren't emotionally ready.
Absolutely.
And so they shut down, and those opportunities I got a dozen of them. I mean, you'd be shocked if you knew how many things I failed at before I just decided to be in a
But
in a
it does
rock
make you feel like a failure in a way,
band.
because
you internalize all of that.
Yes. And then and luckily that band Vostok came around, and they were like, "Hey, we're going on a 4-week tour." And I remember going to school one day, and I couldn't find parking, and I was like, "You know what? Fuck it.
Fuck it.
I'm done."
Fuck
I
parking.
turned around, went home,
Yeah.
and then I went on tour.
Did you withdraw from classes officially?
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
You didn't?
I had the same experience. I just stopped going to school and got WFs on everything.
Yeah.
It destroyed my academic career.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted to absolutely burn it to the ground. So
Yeah.
when I went to my folks and I said, I'm a drummer now.
Yeah, I was going for music production. I was like, I want to learn how to record, so I can advance what I'm doing.
Aren't you glad you didn't have a mountain of student loan debt from that?
Exactly. And you know what? And I went on tour, and I have not stopped since, and I don't regret that. I don't feel bad about not getting my degree. So I feel like, it's not like financially pleasing what I'm doing, but I feel mostly fulfilled in the fact that I get to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that feels good.
Do you feel like that getting sort of online and being able to throw your shoulder against the stone of being a touring musician kind of gave you a purpose in life?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, you know, the touring, the playing the show in an unfamiliar place to people you don't know is the most thrilling part. You know, it's the most fulfilling part.
I mean, you develop a lot of skills.
Yeah.
Both emotional and practical.
Yes.
I mean, from figuring out how to patch a radiator
Mm-hmm.
or replace an alternator.
Yeah.
Or
How to patch an airbed
right.
that you sleep on for a month.
And also how to set boundaries.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I definitely have learned so much also from being the hired gun of how everyone tours, you know, in those situations, how differently it is, what not to do, how we can do something better. And I'm so grateful for all of those experiences because there is no training for this. You know, it's all experience and learning from mistakes, unfortunately, or, you know, good situations that you happen to come across or whatever. So the more you do it, the more you learn and the more you can get out of it.
Yeah, I think that, but I also think that, like, as you sort of, I've been a hired gun at some very high levels, and I don't want to brag about my resume here because I feel like a dick when I do, but I've noticed that the more success you experience, the more you're, like, reinventing the wheel every tour.
Mm-hmm. Right, because expectation becomes higher.
Yeah, and there's not, like, a rule book. You know,
right.
And oftentimes the people who thrive in chaos become the sort of dictators of routine and emotional tenor, and it can be really exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some really great tours, touring with people, you know, who, I mean, without trying to put too fine a point on their household names, but I've also had some really miserable ones because there were people in that environment who knew on some intuitive level that chaos was their friend, and they have that incredible knack that some people have of finding your emotional vulnerable points and pushing your buttons, and man, fuck that, it's so bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, my first, like, legitimate touring gig was just all chaos. It was all, you know, no names need to be said, but it was all manipulation and, like, you know, just greed and, like, drunken chaos and abuse, like verbal abuse, because they were so, like, insecure and egotistical and just, you know.
What's insane is that, like, it's often hard if you're a touring musician in that situation to not internalize those criticisms and those bad feelings to the point where you take it all on yourself.
Absolutely. Because you don't know any better, you know, especially being naive and kind of thrown into that situation.
Yeah. How old were you at that point?
How old? How old was I? Maybe 32, 30, something like that. I'd been touring, but I'd never had, like, a paid situation, you know, for someone else. And I definitely walked away with some PTSD.
Yes.
And I can't not relate any tour to that.
Yes.
There's always something that comes up.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh God, you know, I remember that thing that happened in Lawrence, Kansas. Like, I can't not think of things, unfortunately, but I feel like I've learned what not to do, how not to treat people.
You get anxiety?
Yeah, totally. I think, you know, I don't know who doesn't have anxiety. I know there's different levels that people have. Yeah. But I think it goes away a little bit as you get older because you care a little bit less, hopefully.
Man, I wish.
I mean,
I struggle a lot personally with anxiety around gigging, around being good enough.
Okay.
Because I sort of...
In a hired gun situation or in your own band?
Mostly in a hired gun situation, because my relationships with my own band are, in many ways, we're family now. I mean, 5/8 has played together for 30 years.
You're accepted as who you are.
Right. And these guys, we love each other. It's not always easy, and I often catch myself not being as emotionally generous as I should, especially in situations where I have to like navigate getting home to my family because I have a lot of obligations there, and but that's a whole other discussion. But man, in hired gun situations, I can become absolutely like anxious to the point of affecting my health, shaking hands, sweating, inability to sleep, and and there are people in those situations who often hold power strictly because they understand how to manipulate other people's anxiety.
Yeah, I'll. And it depends on the situation, you know, and the person in charge.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely have the anxiety in the beginning because I'm like, oh, I want to be as good as I can for someone else's project because it's not mine, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to make it look. I want it to be good for them.
Right. Well, then there's a huge rush of satisfaction when it falls into place, and you can tell people are thinking, man, I'm so glad Tierney's on the bass for this gig, you know, or I'm like, and it's maybe this thing I didn't get as a kid, like that, like, hey, you're valued and you're loved and you're good at this, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm definitely really hard on myself about everything, and I think I've eased up a little bit on that, but I like to call myself a lazy perfectionist because I will think all the things.
Absolutely.
But
perfect,
I don't
perfect description.
Act on all of them. I'm like, I'll just hate that, but I won't fix it. You know?
I wish I could show you my to-do list heading into South by Southwest of how many times I wrote down the words "write, Rebby charts" because I knew I had this gig. I knew I was going to have 1 3-hour rehearsal, and then I was going to be in front of people with this band. And I made that to-do list for 4 days before I finally sat down to do it. It's hard work.
Procrastinator?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the anxiety of failing, being that it's so powerful that it can actually keep me from starting the work. But I got it done. It was good.
Yeah, I definitely do that. I also feel like I get really overwhelmed with all the things you have to do in a band now. You know,
Jesus Christ, yeah.
You have to be an entrepreneur of everything. Like,
right.
I spend maybe 70% of my time booking, emailing, social networking stuff. It's like more computer work than actual music that I get like so overwhelmed before these trips and these tours, and you don't like totally feel great when you're going into them. It's always a little bit of a rocky start because you're still making up for things.
Well, and also like I've had a couple conversations with younger musicians, most of whom I think are doing great, and I think millennials get a bad rap. I think a lot of them are really brilliant, but there's some confusion about the value of social media work to promote over actually practicing. Like if you're spending 30 hours a week promoting the band on social media and like less than 6 hours a week practicing, you're kind of not your social media presence that plays some music sometimes, you know, and you're not going to progress musically.
Right.
You might become really dominant social media wise, but you know,
right.
The worst thing that can happen.
Still have to show for it,
right?
You know,
the worst thing that happened to a band in that situation is that they actually become successful, and there's a pressure to duplicate.
But you're expected to do both of those things, and that's
a lot.
The hard part.
It's
I have such a love-hate relationship with social media because I love that we are able to promote ourselves in these ways and connect with certain people that we would never have been able to do before. But I hate that it feels like a job and an obligation, and makes you so accessible. As a private person, I'm just like, who are you? I don't want to talk to you, you know, like, I don't know you. I
saw a band yesterday across the street from where we were playing from Los Angeles called French Vanilla, and man, they were good. Really compelling front person. She was a really amazing performer, and they were in many ways very realized, and they reminded me, as I was talking earlier about when punk was fun, X-Ray Specs, XTC, other bands that didn't start with X. Why am I only thinking of X bands? Yeah, X. But like they were great in that way. And then like later on that night I had a few minutes to myself, and I just immediately went and found them and added them on Instagram and sent them a message that said, "Hey, you guys fucking killed today. Thanks for being awesome." And they responded, and I thought, this is weird. Like, I have instant access to this band that I like.
Right.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing either.
Yeah. And I guess it depends on the usage.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, you're a female performer. I'm sure you get a lot of stupid shit come through the...
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get some weird shit, and it makes me feel less and less inclined to be...
Open the inbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I feel a little selective about that, but...
Yeah, we've talked about that some, and I do want to talk about it some now. And as I said before, I feel like a lot of the people walk around with this incredibly primitive emotional self because they're isolated from real emotional relationships, and then they see a band like The Pauses and they feel things, you know? I mean, you guys are... Art is an empathic experience, and people, it pulls emotions out of people. And man, some of your music is so powerful, and I think that some of those guys have this rush of emotion and are inappropriate about it because they're fucking children,
maybe
emotionally, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for it, but I spent a lot of time wondering, like, when we've talked about it before, you've been like, oh my God, there was this creepy thing that happened, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, why does it happen? And I think that might be wise because these guys, we're an incredibly emotionally immature culture in many ways. And some of those sort of social mores that have kind of held bad behavior in check have eroded over time. And social media has opened this door to have immediate access, you know.
Yeah. And I deal with that in different ways. Usually I tend to just kind of ignore it. But I will say, like, sometimes I moonlight with this band War on Women, which is another hired gun situation.
I didn't know you were... I love that band. I didn't know you were involved with that.
I'm the on-call bassist.
Okay.
They have this wonderful bassist, Sue, but she's just like a genius scientist, and she has a real job.
That's often the case.
Yeah. So sometimes she can't do things. So I will... be asked, they asked me to do the Warped Tour last year, but I couldn't commit because it was like 6 weeks or something. And I can do like, smaller runs with them, but I've done a couple shows. A couple years ago, we did this Long Beach SoCal Punk Festival. So you see like the Pompadours and the... rockabilly.
This doesn't sound like it's going anywhere good to me.
No.
I was already imagining a band called War on Women on the Warped Tour, which is not really known as a sort of haven of feminist thought.
And things happened on that. I think, was it the Dickies they kind of called out?
That was part of that, right? I forgot. Yeah.
But that's what I love about them, and that's what I've taken away from that experience is we played the Queen Mary. And this guy catcalled me, and Shauna, the singer, like immediately responded and was like, "Don't fucking talk to her like that." And I was like, "Oh my God. Yeah. Don't fucking talk to me like that."
I mean, I think that the lesson that we learned from that confrontation, there's several lessons in that confrontation between the War Women and the Dickies. And number one is that don't apologize for standing up for yourself.
Right.
Don't ever fucking back down.
That moment empowered me. And I was like, yeah, you know what? From now on, I'm just not going to accept that.
Right.
I need to say something to. It sucks to have to do the work.
Right.
But I need to say something. I need to respond to that because I shouldn't be complacent with and accepting of that behavior.
Right. I think it's incumbent upon people who have some. I mean, this coming from a white cisgendered straight guy may not be a welcome observation, but I think that it's incumbent upon people who have the strength to say, "Hey, you don't get to fucking talk to me like that."
Yeah.
It's important for the next woman who doesn't, through whatever quirk of personality or history of abuse she has, where she's afraid to speak up. If you can defend her from that preemptively, then that's a great thing.
Yeah.
As we were saying earlier, I think that Gen X men are trainable. A lot of us are sort of understanding that maybe things we've said in the past or ways we've behaved are problematic. But one of the great gifts of call-out culture is that, we're learning.
Yeah.
And I think millennial men are often, they've been socialized to this already and they get it. I mean, certainly the guys in Easter Island who were younger than I was, and I was sort of producing their records and playing drums on them, but they were sort of teaching me how to be a little better human being. Mm-hmm. And they're living in it, but man, the Dickies, just fucking boomer men are they're going to die angry that they have to acknowledge the humanity of people who aren't white men.
Yeah. Right. And to admit that they are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, their inability to admit it doesn't give them any fucking pass in my book.
No.
So,
but props to the people that do learn from that. And
but we were talking about War on Women. I totally derailed that conversation. I'm sorry. So
well, no, I mean that's a thing that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like I definitely took something away from that experience, and like super grateful for that. Because in the past I've just kind of let it slide.
Does Jason ever like say, "Hey, I'll just answer this"?
My personal Facebook messages, no.
Well, I mean, I just was thinking about it.
That would be great.
Band stuff. I mean, my wife will occasionally like get the. She's a college professor, and sometimes she gets these inappropriate overtures from students or other guys, and I just answer those messages like, "Hey, I don't know what you think you're trying to do here, but
I don't mind saying how I feel about these things. I just feel like sometimes it's not worth responding.
It's not
kind of
really.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Like in a like I don't want to engage with this.
Sure.
So.
What are some of your low points through the years? Like, I know that.
Oh man,
there's a whole record that I get a vibe from Unbuilding. Like there was some stuff that preceded that record that was pretty intense.
Well, yeah. I mean, like since it's on my mind, we just came from the David Bazan documentary, which focuses.
I haven't seen it.
It just premiered today.
Okay.
So that's probably why you haven't seen it.
Yeah. I was in this hotel.
Unless you made it. Yeah. It focuses heavily on his marriage and how tough it is to tour and be on the road nonstop and to have a family, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
And how he struggles with that, and how, he's had to work. His income comes mostly from touring, and how he's had to do that more to provide for the family that he can't see all the time. And like that, I don't have a family, but I have had so many instances where I can't have a relationship that's functional because I'm touring. And
you think it's harder for a man who stays home while a woman is touring than vice versa?
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think it takes a really strong relationship to make that work. And, unfortunately last year I went through that where I didn't have that person who didn't understand what I did and made me feel like what I was doing was wrong. And it took me a little while to come out of that and go, you know what? No, this is what I do. This is what I love to do.
I hate that guy right now.
And you should.
Yeah. It's so frustrating.
I just and when we started dating, I wasn't doing all that touring. So it was like a surprise, you know, but it had been like coming up, and I was like, this is what I do, like I'm not going to change that.
I mean, it happens. It happens all the time. I know all these musicians who were in relationships that failed because they insisted that they have to do this thing, and it's not something. I mean, I often get really jealous of the Muscle Shoals guys because they're able to stay home and make platinum records.
Right.
A friend of mine who I've toured with a lot once said to me is I was having a really tough time because I was in a relationship with someone who didn't think was capable of fidelity over a long period of time, and that was when 5/8 was doing 200 shows a year. Mm-hmm. And he said, look, you can't control that person's behavior, and it's very difficult to control your own thought process about this. You can lie awake and obsess about it, especially if you're prone to anxiety like I am.
Yeah.
He said, but mostly I find that our trust in our partner is proportional to our own ability to be faithful. You're only going to be as jealous as you distrust your own ability to control your impulses.
Yeah.
And, man, when I started thinking, well, I'm pretty good at fidelity, and I was able to calm the fuck down and do the tour and play
Mhm.
the shows and be okay.
Yeah.
That relationship didn't make it, but
That's interesting that you were the one that was away doing the touring, and you were thinking about the other. It's always been the other way for me. Like someone's always worried about me because I'm the only woman in the band or whatever.
I have said to a partner before, look, this is what somebody said to me. I know it's difficult for me to be away, and you know that there are people who come to the shows who are lonely, and this empathic experience of seeing art inspires a lot of strong feelings in people, and sometimes because they're somehow broken or have some fierce desire or uncontrollable desire for intimacy, that they'll act on it and they want to fuck a musician. But understand that, you know, our bond is about this mutual circle of trust, and I trust you, and if you can trust me, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And it worked out. I mean, my wife and I don't think she ever struggles with this.
That's great.
I certainly don't struggle worrying about her at home. You know, I feel really lucky in that respect.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
But I think also for a lot of partners, it's just about not being able to share the spotlight. Like, I'm married to a performer. That's hard for some people. But my wife's an actor and I'm a musician, and we just do it. You know,
you understand that. Yeah.
Some people aren't cut out so there's some civilians who aren't cut out for this life.
He was a scientist, and he didn't get what I did.
Yeah.
And that was basically how that ended.
You internalized a lot of that.
I think I was upset with myself that I tried to change for him. And then I was happy with myself that I went, you know what? Fuck that.
Yes.
This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I need to find someone that can accept that. So I was happy that I didn't compromise on that situation. So, the low point for me is like wanting that thing, but not really being able to find the thing, and then finding some things, and then they just like kind of never really come to fruition. So it's like, do I accept that this is like it's how it's gonna be, and just be happy with my dog forever until she's not around anymore, or do I just like dwell on this thing and like, you know, be active in finding something? And I feel like that is a lonely search.
I have a buddy who's a touring drummer who had a whole Tinder on tour diary. And
see, I can't do the online dating thing.
I just got to tell you, it lasted about 10 days, and he was like, I can't do this.
It creeps me out.
It's so miserable. Yeah, it's bad.
I don't think I could ever do that, ever. It's just like, it feels, personally, it feels a little desperate.
Well, I think that, like, for us as performers, that there's a lack of intimacy in a lot of relationships amongst civilians. Like I don't think I think that people I think we have something special, you know? Like, I watch these TV shows sometimes. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV, but we were watching this thing the other night, and there was this consultant, this Japanese woman who would come into your house and straighten it, and I was just watching the couple, and I thought, man, these people are dead inside.
Oh, tidying up?
Yes.
Yeah.
We watched it in Japanese because I'm playing with a Japanese rock band and it had English subtitles, but I spent the whole time like watching this incredibly emotionally immature man try to wrestle with his feelings. I'm like, buddy, you need some Jason Isbell records. You know, like, you need to like stop trying to muscle your way through every emotional situation, is like headbutt it. And like,
that seems to be my type. The last 10 years is like the detached, like, I don't know how to express myself.
Man.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
did I tell you I love dogs?
Yeah, I love dogs too. They're so forgiving.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have zero expectations and they're beautiful.
Yeah. So there's a song on the record I think you're referring to, Have, maybe?
That's the one.
I knew it. That was
that song just knocks the legs out from under me every time I hear it.
Yeah. And that song is like the first time I've ever been like really blatant with lyrics and like just like very open, because I usually unintentionally I'm a little bit cryptic, I guess, a little like abstract.
You're an introvert in a public position.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put too much of it out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to just be like explicit and
man, it got me. It hooked
yeah,
me.
that's good.
Yeah, it works.
It was about like a long distance relationship I was trying to have, and you know, just absolutely failed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's pretty much what happened.
All touring musician relationships are long distance relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was very long. This was on the other opposite side of the country.
Oh, that's
That's
a
very
California
far.
reference in the song, as I recall. Yeah,
absolutely.
But you said as you get older, your anxiety isn't quite as controlling as it used to be for you.
I don't. Yeah. I mean,
just giving less of a shit. You think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Having more confidence, giving less of a shit, is the only way I can deal with it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely there. I think about things all the time, but I have gotten better about not putting myself out there as much as I used to for people who are not
receptive,
meeting me halfway or receptive.
Right. So
and that has helped.
As you imagine, like a theoretical, like younger musician listener who's hearing this and thinking, I have so much anxiety, how do I get to the point where I'm as confident as where Tierney is now?
I mean,
just live life.
I'm not like, you know, the most confident person, but I think it's only come through living through experiences where I've been, you know, not having that reciprocated, you know?
Right.
Going, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again because I know where that leads to.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not going to make me happy. So asking yourself, like, you know, stopping and asking yourself, how is this going to make me feel in the long run?
Right.
And that's, you know, hopefully you can do that. It's not always going to work because sometimes you just react in the moment and it just happens and you go with your heart and your gut, and that's what gets you in trouble. But for me, it's happened too many times to keep letting that happen. So I don't know.
You protect yourself more now.
Protect, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
but
more of
also,
a guard.
You have the benefit of many years of experience.
Yeah.
I mean, when you, I think that when things get really bad, you find out what you're really good at and what really matters. And
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I have to. I have a heart condition, I'm bicuspid aortic. So I was born with this, basically a leak in my heart.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So everything for me physically is harder. I feel lethargic all the time. I feel tired. I have to be like more conscious about, you know, health than ever, like especially on tour.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm always like, I have anxiety about eating right and exercising, and you know, because those are the things that make me mentally and physically feel better. I try to exercise daily because otherwise I will just feel like so like just draggy all day.
And this will always be with you?
Yeah.
Is there maybe a surgery or something I can do? Or?
I probably won't need to have a surgery until way down the line.
Okay.
So I go in for an annual echo every year,
Right.
get it checked out, and everything's good. But
you were born with a broken heart.
Yeah, isn't that so emo?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like, you know, I'm on top of that, I'm a stress eater.
Yeah, me too.
I guess
so
that's
was my first Jake.
Yeah?
Yeah, we were talking about it. I mean, I don't know how he stays so thin, but then I heard his band Triac, and I'm like, oh. you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I need to be a drummer, so I can just like eat whatever I want.
I'm looking at you pudgily from over here, like maybe not.
I mean, I guess it's better than being anything else in that like vice world.
Yes, I mean it's funny though. It's the only one people make fun of you for. Like
I know.
If you drink too much, or you snort a ton of heroin, or you're like banging coke in your veins, and people are like, "Oh, that guy's dark. He's edgy." You know, you're like eating gingerbread for breakfast, like me, and people are like, "Hey, you need some new jeans there." I'm like, fuck off, man.
I'm pretty good about what I eat. It's just like the amount. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm bored. I'm stressed. You know, I'm tired.
And every time you stop for gas, there's a fucking cooler full of Choco Tacos. It's like,
see, I won't eat that. I can't do a lot of sugar anymore, but I will overindulge in dark chocolate. That's my vice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It just that's where my like I take out my stress. So I have to be like extra good about taking care of myself, and that is always going to be a big pressure in my life and hard, especially when you're touring. And
I mean, in a way it becomes a blessing, right? Like, because if you don't have pressure to take care of yourself.
Yes, but that's also where like I struggle because I'm too hard on myself. You know, girls will go, "Oh, well, you didn't do this today, you know, so you can't do that other thing.
Yeah.
So you're punished."
Yeah.
But
part of what I do at Crash and Ride is that the sort of as we wind down, I feel fairly sure you're familiar with the Bernard Pivot 10 questions. It's what James Lipton uses at the end of the Actors Studio.
Okay.
And everyone sort of has heard those and has a sort of general plan for when they're asked those questions. So I have 5 completely different questions.
Okay.
And they're sort of a work in progress. Next year they may be 6 questions, they may be 4, they may be 10, I don't know. But I've got 5 now. And you know, if there's sort of nothing that you feel like is pressing that we haven't discussed, then we'll move to the 5 questions.
Yeah, I think we covered all the
good stuff.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So the 5 questions I want you to answer sort of off the cuff. Don't think about it too hard. Also, some of the questions are a little more general, and it's just so to elicit a more general answer or more to see what you grab on to as a more what part of it sort of speaks to you. I'll begin. What is the favorite meal that you've ever had?
Ooh. Well, my favorite all-time food is Italian food, which is also a food that I avoid because it's my favorite. But I mean, I love like gnocchi is probably my favorite food.
I'm going to send you a recipe.
Okay.
Yeah. White beans, spinach, gnocchi. Yeah,
okay.
It's really good. All right, second question. Well, actually, is there a particular time that you think of eating gnocchi that you think, oh, that was the best?
There used to be a restaurant in Orlando called Bravissimo, and unfortunately they closed down, but that was the best gnocchi I've ever had.
And how was it prepared?
I couldn't tell you that.
I mean, was it with white beans and spinach, or with
sausage, or just straight up
olive oil and
and a little bit of cheese. Like,
that sounds really good.
It was so good.
Yeah. Second question: what is the most frightened you have ever been?
This will sound funny. When I was in high school, I think the Blair Witch Project came out.
Oh, really?
And my friends were jerks, and we all got back to the house, and I was still in the car. I was getting something. They locked me out of the house, and I ran around to the back, and there was like a stick formation at the door.
For God's sakes.
And I was scared shitless. And then I ran around to the front, and then they'd put a rock formation on my car. And isn't that cruel? That scared me so bad.
These friends weren't in your band, I hope.
We're not friends anymore.
Yeah, okay, good. Fuck them.
High school.
That's terrible.
I know. It was so... I'm not good with horror films.
Yeah, I don't watch them.
They'll give me nightmares.
I have anxiety already. Why do I want to watch a horror film?
Right.
But I will say this. I have a pathological hatred of locked doors.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it comes from, something in my childhood that I blacked out.
Huh.
I mean, I have a vague memory. I don't want to get into all that now. We're in the 5 questions now. All the emo shit is behind us. But yeah, I will say this. I smashed a door at the 40 Watt Club once.
Shit.
Yeah, just fucking. I come off the stage, was drenched in sweat. Had just played a short show, so I've got a really high level of energy still. Yeah. And I went to go into my dressing room. I'm not normally like, you shouldn't be in my dressing room, because I'm not doing drugs in there or anything. But I just wanted to get a dry shirt, and the door was locked. But when I went to push it open, it felt like someone was leaning on the door. You know how sometimes you can push a door and there's someone pushing it back with their back, and it moves a little bit and it pops back into place. And I was like, oh, motherfucker. And I took 2 steps back and I hit it. And I'm not a small man.
Yeah.
And the door exploded into the room, and I saw pieces of wood. I didn't realize it was locked. I thought there was just someone leaning on the door, and I was just absolutely furious. And the door jamb disintegrated, and there were all these members of this band, blue flashing light, and they're doing key bumps, and they looked at me like I had fucking shot someone. Ooh. And I was like, get the fuck out.
Right.
And
that's a sacred space, you know?
Man, the 40 Watt people were really not happy. And they shouldn't have been. You don't fucking break doors down for the fuck of it. But like,
right. But they shouldn't have locked your green room to do.
I didn't know it was locked. I honestly thought someone was just going to get sort of bounced across the room. But it was like, and I look back on it, and I've sort of rationalized my thought process at the time. But at the time, I was not thinking. I have a thing with locked doors that are supposed to be unlocked, and it's not good. It drives my wife crazy. I never lock the doors at the house.
Yeah.
And
but the green room, that's your space. That's your place to escape and be, and have your time and your things there. It's like, it's.
Yeah, don't be in my fucking space.
Yeah,
man.
People don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, sorry, 40 Watt.
Yeah.
I can still see the patch too on that door. Every time I look at it, I feel a deep shame. Third question. Of all the things you've lost, what makes you the saddest, or what do you miss the most of the things that you've lost?
Of material possessions or people, or
remember that thing I said about not clarifying the question?
Yeah.
Just answer.
All the things I've lost. What makes me the saddest?
Or what do you miss the most?
I think I miss my first dog ever. Yeah.
What was that dog's name?
Puppy.
Puppy.
Yeah, my sister named it when she was really young.
I have a dog named Sandwich. I have
that's a good one.
No room to criticize anybody's pet names.
That was like the first time I'd had a dog die.
Yeah.
That was close to.
How old were you?
I was probably about 18 or something. It was a family dog.
You were a fucking adult.
Yeah, it was a family dog.
And what kind of dog was Puppy?
There was like a terrier mutt mix, like kind of orangish brown hair, just very lovable, sweet dog. So we ended up burying Puppy in the backyard. It was just like this whole sad thing, and
it's terribly sad when dogs die.
Yeah. So
that sounds like a generalization, and I don't mean it that way. It's just we don't form rational attachments to dogs.
Well, it's just like something that kind of hits you out of nowhere too. You're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's like shocking. So I miss Doug.
No, rest in peace, Puppy.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite place to play?
Ooh, I have a couple of different places for different reasons. I love Will's Pub. It's kind of just like home, It's just got this like...
Will's Pub, for those of you who haven't been there, is in Orlando, Florida.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it's my like attachment with working there, working with Will, and how wonderful he is. How many great shows we've had there. How just easy it is to be there and play there and just have a great crowd of people and type of people too. So I love playing there, and also really love this place called the Sinclair in Boston. It was the first time I ever saw a venue that had laundry.
Oh man, what a lifesaver!
What a game changer!
Saver,
yeah. I was like, what? We can do laundry here, and we can like watch TV. What? So that was just kind of like this luxurious experience.
It's in Boston.
in Boston,
We're
Cambridge.
Pinky Doodle Poodle's trying to book a Northeastern tour right now, and that just went on my list.
It's wonderful. And then I got to play the 930 Club once, and I had a really great experience with that.
Me too.
So I'm looking forward to that in June.
We played the 930 Club after Guar, though.
Oh, nice.
And they had gotten all the sticky red stuff off the floor upstairs, but it had seeped down the walls. And there were places in the dressing room where if you sat, you would get like...
How do you go after Guar?
Well, no, it was days. We were opening.
Oh.
We were opening for Poi Dog Pondering, who are from here, Austin. We're in
Okay.
Austin now.
And there are still
Oh yeah, still
Guar
blood
stuff.
places in the club.
Oh, man.
It was and it smelled weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, everything else about the 930 Club has always been amazing.
Yeah. It's just the Sinclair and 930 Club, they're so like hospitality centric that they just get it, and they treat performers so well.
Have you toured Europe?
I have not.
Man, so many European venues are like that.
We really want to. That's next on the list. So
I want that for you.
thank you. Hopefully that will happen soon.
Man, it's so good.
Yeah.
And the final of the 5 questions. If you could live anywhere, visa and income considerations aside, where would you live?
That's always a debate in my head because I grew up in Orlando and I live there now currently. And it's changed so much over the last 10 years for the better. But there's always that feeling like, oh, okay, well, you've lived here your whole life. You should go somewhere else kind of thing.
Sure. I've lived in Athens for 30 years.
Yeah. But where? I don't know. It's like everything is so great in Orlando. Like, why would you want to leave there? I don't think I could do the big city thing, like New York. I don't think I could do San Francisco, even though I thought about it.
The problems with those cities are that you have to spend so much time not being evicted that you don't get any time to focus on your art.
Right.
You know.
Right.
You would have to. The pauses would have to step up to a different level of. Not that you don't deserve it, you absolutely do. But you'd have to make so much more money to live in New York or San Francisco, and not work
Be a
at
lot
Trader
harder.
Joe's.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of okay with things how they are right now.
Yeah.
But I'm also open to see what happens.
Well, I want to talk to you after you tour Europe.
Okay.
And see. Yeah. If
I do love the West Coast. I will say that, like, the Pacific Northwest is kind of a sweet spot for me to visit, at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots of Athens people would move from Athens to Portland because it was kind of like going to the grad school of hipsterism, and then they would be back the following summer. Like, it started raining in October, and it just didn't stop. And they'd be shell shocked, and they'd have a new drug thing in their life that wasn't good. And it was happened over and over.
Yeah, that happens in Orlando too.
I think we may have just. I was thinking during the interview about this that was something I wanted to ask you. I think we just came with the 6th question of the Crash and Ride. But, so, what is your sort of perfect instrument? Do you own it already? Are you is there a particular bass or keyboard?
Actually, I bought a Fender Rhodes. Maybe 10, 11 years ago, off this guy who he'd had it in a church at one point, and then it was sitting in his basement. And I got a really great deal on it, and then I invested some money in replacing the tines and the felts and hammers and all that. Just like, there's a great site called Vintage Vibe where you can buy
I bought stuff from Vintage
refurbished organ parts and things.
Right. And Wurlitzer parts.
And Wurlitzer parts, yeah. So I redid everything myself.
Amazing.
Which was so much work.
Yeah.
And, tuned it and everything. And it's just like, I also have a digital piano, a Nord, that I will take on the road, but it just does not have the same feeling as the Rhodes.
The Nords are great, but I've got a Wurlitzer 200A in my living room.
Oh, nice.
That I can't play, but when I have sessions and guys come and play that, I'm like, I know you have your Nord, and I know it has a Wurlitzer sound bank, but I want to plug this Wurlitzer in to an amplifier and put a mic on it and let you hear what that sounds like.
Yeah.
And no one ever says, I'm going to use my Nord. Like,
Right.
it becomes
it's not
a thing.
the same.
No.
It's just I don't know. It's what I write on, and I gravitate towards when I'm thinking of writing something.
Yeah,
so
but super heavy. You can't tour with that thing.
no, and I have in the first band we toured with the Rhodes, and it was such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You're constantly tuning it, and the guys had to lift it because it was just a beast.
The only upside is that as a drummer, you're finally not the guy with the heaviest thing that everybody hates. I always love to see a band with an SVT because I'm like, there's the jerk.
Oh, yeah. Oof.
I've got the
do that.
incredibly heavy hardware case, but I don't have an 810.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's my one piece that I love.
no,
Yeah.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been everything I had hoped. And
Oh, thank you so
amazing.
much.
I know from having watched you perform for so many years that you had a tremendous, emotional depth, but it's nice to kind of find out more about it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Well, and there you have it. I mean, God, isn't she amazing? I highly recommend you check out the Pauses music. Both of their records are on Spotify and on Bandcamp. Go seek them out. They are totally worth your time and absolutely brilliant. I would also remind you to avail yourself of community resources if you're struggling with depression and anxiety. Here in Athens, Georgia, where I live, we have Nucci Space, but there may be something similar to that in your town. If you know about that, please email us at crashandride@protonmail.com. crashandride@protonmail.com. Remember, anything you send to that address will be treated confidentially. No one checks that email address but me. It is encrypted. It is secure. I will never violate your anonymity unless you expressly give me permission to do so. So, yes, send us any communication there. That includes questions for me that you'd like me to discuss at the top of the show, questions that you'd like me to ask possible future guests, any suggestions you have for the show. Any booking questions you have for any of the bands I'm involved in, man, I'm happy to help if I can. I don't usually handle booking, but I'd love to come to your town and play a show. Remember that if you are in distress right now and you need help and you are having dark days, you can always call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Man, stick around. Stay with us. Loud guitars save lives. Thanks. Bye.